Today I'm going to show you guys some tips and tricks when fishing a Neko rig that'll help you double, if not triple, the amount of fish you catch. I'll show you everything you need to know about the Neko rig and teach you what situations you might want to throw it in. I'm also going to show you some tips and tricks that I've learned that have helped me catch a lot of bass. Alright, to start off, the first technique we're going to talk about is fishing a Neko rig around docks, specifically skipping under docks. And for this first example, we're going to talk about clear water. So let's say 3+ feet of visibility. We're going to normally go with a natural color, whether it's a green pumpkin, watermelon, baby bass, something like that. For this example, we'll use green pumpkin. So the first tip, and a lot of people overlook this one, but I did it first too, and I tried it out, and it sure paid off. When I was fishing with my co-angler, it definitely made a difference. So the first tip is just getting that Senko out of the pack and roughing it up. You'll see all the salt out of that bait come to the surface. When using like a Gary Yamamoto, you'll really be able to tell the difference. And those Gary Yamamoto Senkos, they so much salt in them, and it'll come up to the surface and it'll give it that rough look. It'll also just give it a different color in general that no one's throwing, you know? So that's the first thing you want to do. I won't finish roughing it up all the way, but like I said, those Gary Yamamotos really show that salt that comes to the surface. This is a Strike King. So then what we're going to do next is we're going to get our O-ring tool. For this one, I have one clear O-ring left. I don't think it matters a whole lot, but we'll put him on. And then next, we're going to grab our Neko weight. I like to use a 1/32 ounce, keeping it pretty light when we're skipping docks. You don't want anything too heavy because you want to be able to get far as back under that dock as possible. So that Neko weight is in there now. You want to try to keep it as straight as possible. And then when you're skipping, that weight will sometimes fling out. So what I like to do, grab some super glue, put the super glue just on the tip of that worm. That was quite a bit because it had some pressure built up in it. That'll dry here in a second. But then after that, the hook of choice when I'm skipping docks is the VMC Finesse Neko hook. I like this hook because, here I'll show you an example. So we're going to pretend this is a dock cable. The reason I like this hook rather than a wacky rig hook is because when you're skipping under a dock cable, sometimes you'll accidentally skip over it, sometimes you'll cast over it, and when you're bringing it over that dock cable, the shape of this hook allows you to just pop it right back over. Say you get snagged on it, there's enough of a gap for it to come out. But when you're using this round hook and you get stuck on a dock cable, it's pinned right there, and there's no budging it. You can't pop your line, you can't pop the bottom of your rod, it's not coming off. So I learned that at Lake of the Ozarks my first year of college fishing, so that's why I've stuck with this hook ever since. I've had really good luck with this hook, so I stick with that hook. VMC Neko, normally a size 6 or a 4. So we'll put this hook in, we'll use this one. Oh, and then when you're fishing around grass, or in this case docks that have, say, brush under them, I go to that Neko hook that has the weed guards. So then we're going to put our hook, and it's always going to be facing towards the finessier side of your worm, because this is the end with the weight. It'll sit on the bottom like this. When the fish come and grab it, they'll get hooked. If you rig it backwards and you rig it towards the weight, you're going to miss a lot of fish because your hook's pointed down. Those fish will come and grab it, and they'll just slide right off the back side of that hook. So you don't want to do that. Oh, we got super glue all over my hands. Okay, and then after that, after super glue's on, I like to grab a chartreuse highlighter dip and glow marker. I stopped using the dip and glow because it spilled all over my boat, and the cap of that container just wasn't very good quality, and it leaked. So stopped messing around with that, picked up the marker, does the same thing, add a little tip on there, imitate a little bluegill, and then you're pretty much set right there with that. A little bit different presentation can make all the difference. After I started rigging I would pre-rig these before tournaments. After I started fishing it this way, I caught a lot more fish, and I know people that would be fishing in the same tournament trying to do the same technique, and it just wasn't working for them. But I believe just the tiny little differences and being able to really efficiently skip that Senko all the way back under those docks, sometimes those fish are pushed all the way back there. So that's a good setup right there. Oh, let me put the hook in it. And then there is my clear water dock fishing setup. And for a leader line, I go to a braid to leader, so I go 10-pound braid, Suffix braid on my spinning reel to a 8-pound Suffix 100% fluorocarbon leader. If I'm fishing around heavier cover, then I'll bump it up to 10, or 10 is normally the most I go, but you can go to a 6-pound leader if they're really clear water, but 8's kind of the perfect medium for me, so I like 8-pound fluoro. Normally 4-foot leader is plenty. If you're worried about them seeing your line, or if they're line shy, then you can make it a longer leader, but normally 3 to 4 foot is just perfect for me. So all right guys, so here's a look at the two different Senkos. This one's roughed up, this one is right out of the package, so you can see definitely changes the color a little bit. And these are Strike King, but like I said earlier, those Gary Yamamoto's, they really show that salt that comes to the surface, and it completely changes the bait. So I'd invest in some of those for sure and try it out. See if it makes a difference for you. I know it does for me. I'm also gonna throw it out there. Do I think you could probably catch fish just tying on a random Senko, random hook, and skipping it under a dock? Probably. I'm sure you could catch some fish doing that. In a tournament situation, one fish can make the difference. You know, it can make a difference on whether you cash a check, win the tournament, or whether you just suck ass that day. So you know, one big bite can make all the difference. One small bite sometimes makes all the difference. So I'm gonna stick to the ways that I, you know, think are gonna produce the most fish, and it gives me the most confidence knowing that I'm trying to do everything possible in my favor to catch bass. So with that shallow water, clear water dock rig that I just got done showing you, I'm gonna tell you guys the most important part of it is your cast. And the most important part of your cast is the position of your boat. So in order to make those casts that are far back into there, under those docks where the fish are positioned, most of the time it's like they know that we're trying to get to them, so they get to those hard to reach places. But with this rig, you'll be able to skip way back in there if you position your boat right. So that is the most important part, is positioning your boat. That's the most important part for your cast. So those power poles come in handy a lot with that part. And once you get positioned, all that's left is just skipping it under there. It's gonna take practice, but you'll get really good at it. You'll be able to skip way back in there. And most of the time when you get back there, you'll get bit right away. It's just getting it to where those fish are. It's not the fact that they're not gonna eat it. A lot of times your presentation won't matter a whole lot, but I've been in tournaments where, you know, you can put a different color worm right in front of their face and they won't eat it, and then you throw this and they'll eat it. So you just got to figure it out on the specific day and the specific lake that you're on. So that's the rig right there. The cast is your most important part. So now we're going to talk about fishing a Neko rig offshore. I did a lot of this at Table Rock Lake this spring for a college tournament, and we were absolutely hammering the big spotted bass and largemouth. Caught a 6-pounder largemouth, bunch of 3-pound spots. It was a blast. So I'll show you the setup for that. Obviously Table Rock Lake, the area of the lake we were in, pretty clear water. So we were using a green pumpkin. I think I also used a little bit of a green and orange Senko, but I mainly had this green pumpkin color. So I'll show you that setup. Doing kind of similar thing with the dock setup, obviously a little bit heavier, and also didn't make too many tiny little changes and adjustments when you're deeper like that. You know, those fish under those docks in such shallow water, they're really seeing that bait, so in that clear water. But I'll show you what I do for the offshore. Don't really worry about roughing up your Senko. You can, if it's a confidence deal. For me it is. Normally I do rough it up. When I'm using those Gary Yamamoto's, I especially do. I think we could have also probably caught some on black and blue just with the depth that we were fishing. Obviously it was still clear water, so we were throwing green pumpkin, but we probably could have gotten away with black and blue with as deep as we were fishing in those brush piles. Yeah, so we were just fishing brush piles off of secondary points, but we were using heavier weights. So let me find some heavier weights. Here's a LS Lures Nico rig weight. We'll use a purple one. They sell all sorts of colors: green pumpkins, chartreuse, brown, purple, orange. So check those out, LS Lures. Put him in. Then once again, those spotted bass, they'd come up and they'd jump and they'd go crazy. So normally I'll put some super glue around the tip of that weight just to hold it on. And then I was using a weedless finesse Nico hook because we were fishing brush piles. Cat's coming to say hi. So there was the rig we were using. Oh, let me add the chartreuse tip. We were still using that chartreuse tip. Seemed to fire them up. There's a look at it. There's my offshore rig. For my rod and reel setup for shallow water docks, skipping docks with a Nico, I like to have a 7-foot medium action spinning rod with a 1000 size Daiwa Fuego reel. I really like that reel. I've gotten 3 of them now. I just really fell in love with those when I started skipping a Nico rig. Super smooth, super small sized reel, but you really don't need a big spool when you're skipping docks. I like that smaller reel in my hand when I'm skipping. I can backhand skip, I can forehand skip, one-handed, no problem. So for both offshore fishing and also fishing up shallow, your movement of your Nico rig is going to depend on the lake, the day, the hour, the weather. There's going to be variables, so you're just going to have to figure it out. I will say a good way to start is just a common cast out there, let it sit, fall all the way down to the bottom, pop it once, sit, reel up your slack, pop it, and then you'll find out that if you're getting bit after you're pausing it for quite a while, then maybe you should start dead sticking a little more. I know a lot of the lakes around me, I almost have to dead stick it to get bit, especially with those smallmouth. Really, I don't know why, they'll just come and pluck it off the bottom, but I catch a lot of them dead sticking it. But you'll catch them pumping across the surface of the water sometimes too. So it's just depending on the mood that the fish are in. So you just got to figure that out in the given day that you're on the water. So I can think of quite a few situations this past college season where I had to pull out the wacky rig and fish for some pressured fish, and making all these little adjustments made all the difference. One more thing, if you're targeting roamers or cruisers, I like to first start out with a lighter setup. Normally that slower fall doesn't spook them, right? But sometimes you'll find if you can see those fish before they see you, a more erratic fall in that clearer water will entice them to bite, whether it's just the reaction, or most of the time it's going to be just that reaction, that fast fall right in front of their face. So, but most of the time if those fish see you before you see them, it's going to be hard to catch them, but the only way you're going to catch them is with that lighter setup. That's pretty much going to wrap it up. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll try to get back to you. Also, follow my other social medias that are in the description, and leave me some more video ideas in the comments, please. Thanks for watching.